You're listening to Inside the Village, where all news is local and no topic is off limits.
So help me, Bob, it's bully in the alley. Hey, bully in the alley. So help me, Bob.
Welcome back for another episode of Inside the Village across the Village Media Network, and of course available wherever you get your favorite podcast. Derek Turner, executive producer, is back with us, as is Michael Friscolanti, editor-in-chief at Village Media, taking over the world. All I keep hearing about is Toronto this, Toronto that. What's the latest?
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is exciting.
Just so many meetings, Scott.
and you're like me, hate meetings.
Yeah, I'm not a huge meeting fan.
I once heard an expression, and feel free to use this. A meeting is a place where you take minutes and waste hours.
Yeah, probably some meetings. These particular meetings have been quite good. Especially because we're getting ready to launch something super exciting we've talked about over and over here.
Yeah.
And we're having the opportunity to chat with a lot of candidates who have applied to come work for Toronto Today. And it's just amazing to speak to the next generation of young journalists who are either have just gotten their start in another organization or are just trying to get going now.
Yeah. And
their passion for what they do and their excitement and learning about knowing what we do and telling us what they've read about us, what they like about Village Media. So it's gratifying in a lot of ways, right? Like just to be growing this way and to see the crop of talent we have there is pretty great.
Yeah, and how is the formation of the team? Is it completed yet, or are you close? What can you say?
I wouldn't say it's completed. I think we're getting close. I can confirm for sure that our good friend Alex Flood here in Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah.
I apologize to our listeners who are not in the Soo, but Alex Flood is one of our reporters here. He applied to go to Toronto. It's a big move for him.
Huge.
He's leaving his hometown. But I have to give a shout out to Alex. He's done a fantastic job in the 2.5 years he's been here at the headquarters and working for Soo Today. He's done such impactful journalism and told hundreds of amazing stories in the couple years he's been here. And he's really excited for the chance to kind of go to the big city and compete against sort of a next level of competition, right? Because I think we do great work in all our communities, but the difference is in some of our communities, there's a lot less competition, right? So we take very seriously what we do, and we do a fantastic job. But in Toronto, you're competing against dozens of news outlets, right?
Absolutely.
Lots of different opportunities, lots of different competition, and he's just chomping at the bit to get there. He can't wait to get started, and so huge congratulations to Alex. The rest of the team will announce shortly. It's
so refreshing in someone like Alex, who's so young, but yet so filled with enthusiasm and passionate about journalism and what he does.
Yeah, and he was like, it's so cliche, but he listened, right? He learned from a lot of people here who gave him a lot of advice and suggestions every time he did a story, how to tackle a certain story, what angle to chase, what other call you need to make this story even better. And he soaked it all in, right? And he's going to get mad at me for telling this, but he told me once that he actually would read every word of every edit that was ever done in any story so he could learn from that edit, right? Like that's commitment, right? And so I did see he posted on his personal Facebook page a photo from inside this studio, right?
That's right.
When he did an appearance here.
And we don't let just anyone in here.
That's right. And he posted that he's heading down to Toronto, and just the love that poured out on his Facebook page was unbelievable. A lot of people are super happy for him, and I'm looking forward to him getting there too, getting started. Yep. We'll get him working right away on Monday morning.
Absolutely. He's always had that drive and that fire, so no surprise that he's headed to the big smoke. Okay, I know it's big. What? What are you laughing at?
No, I'm just laughing.
You're stroking. Did you lose the razor?
No, I know we've made fun of this in the past, but I have to be honest with you. We were talking before. As some people might know, I'm a huge Detroit Tigers fan. The Tigers are the hottest team in baseball since the middle of August. I think they're 26-17 or 20.
No, you don't think you know.
They're 25-10 or something. But they've won every night, it feels like. And I've been, I'm always paying attention to what's going on. And it's been a magical run. They're a young team. They've done everything right. They were 10 games out of the wild card in August, and now they're a game up on the final wild card spot with 6 games to go. So I can't bring myself to trim my beard because I feel like I'm very superstitious that way, like a ball player. And so I feel like if I trim my beard, they'll lose 6 in a row, and that'll be it for us.
So 6 left, 3 against Tampa, and then the remaining 3 against
the Chicago White Sox,
the worst team in the history of baseball.
So knowing the Tigers, they'll lose all 3, and
wouldn't that be something?
It'd be terrible. Yeah. So yeah, lots to be excited about right now, Scott, including the Tigers. So if you're a Blue Jays fan, as a lot of our listeners probably are, and you've been out of it since June, now's the time to jump on a team.
June.
That's exciting. Well, or in April you're out of it.
It seems like they were losing right out of the gate.
They did feel that way. So you know what? It's my favorite time. I love the fall. Love fall baseball. It's been a decade since my team's been playing meaningful fall baseball. So it's a great time to be alive, brother.
It's a fan. Baseball playoffs. There's nothing like it. Hockey's starting up. On the golf side, you've got the President's Cup this weekend. Team International, led by Mike Weir, against Team US. It's just a wonderful time to be a sports fan.
The leaves are changing. They look gorgeous out there. There's a little nip in the air.
There is.
But now everything's going to go wrong because I've said all these positive things.
Well, as long as you don't shave.
That's right.
Okay, before we get to today's show, I had a bit of a chuckle, as I'm sure you and Derek did earlier this week, when into our inbox came an email from Sasquatch University. And if you've watched this program in the past, and we hope that you have, you'll know that we're talking about the one and only Ryan Willis, who is a Sasquatch hunter, and now seemingly quite a famous one.
Yes. Yeah. It was season 3 of this show?
I think it's season 2 that got picked up by, was it Wild Network, Derek? I think it was Wild Network.
Yeah.
Anyway, he wanted to reach out to see if we wanted to do something.
Well, he's already our most appeared guest.
If there's a true definition of friend of the show, it would be Ryan Willis. And he did claim, and we should point this out in the email, he does have actual video footage. Now, we don't know how grainy it is, but maybe when we get a hold, we'll follow up with Ryan.
We'll follow up, but I think, as Derek said earlier, I think he's got to bring the Sasquatch in the studio for us to get him back on the show.
Third seat right here.
Yeah, and he's been on a few times, so I think we'd have to have some of our more important guests come back a couple times.
All right, and speaking of important, Dr. Stacey Santi certainly falls into that category. She is from the Research Institute of the Health Sciences Network in Sudbury, and today we're going to talk about the hidden cost of cancer and what cancer patients go through.
Yeah, this is a fascinating piece, and our team, Len Gillis in Sudbury, or Sudbury.com, wrote a story about it. They're going to do a little bit more digging into how much it costs out of pocket when you have cancer, your family has cancer. There's all the travel costs, the meal costs, the accommodation costs, and it's not really a number that anyone's kind of looked at closely.
Yeah.
So this team is going to do that, and they're the right team to do it, because where they are, a lot of people do travel to Sudbury for this kind of treatment, because there's a lot of outlying communities in Northern Ontario that Sudbury is the place to go. So it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and the Northern Ontario Health Travel Grant really doesn't cover an awful lot of it.
No, it's some people get more than others, from what I understand, but it's never going to cover 100% of what you have to do, and it's important to put that into perspective, right? So I think we'll have some good questions for her, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. All right, let's
get a break in, and we're back with Dr. Stacey Santi right after this, when Inside the Village returns.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
For the most comprehensive coverage of Ontario politics anywhere, it's another installment of Trillium Talk across the Village Media Network.
Essentially, this would amount to around $11 million in, lost money.
The ministry's unofficial estimate of the number of people experiencing homelessness in the province is almost 250,000 people.
The province knows that the CASs are in deficit. They will probably find out that this is one of the reasons why.
Amidst the speculation of an early provincial election that the Ford government is worried about.
Trillium Talk every Sunday morning at 8 across the Village Media Network. We're back on Inside the Village across the Village Media Network, and of course available wherever you get your favorite podcast. I'm Scott Sexsmith alongside Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media. On the show today, Dr. Stacey Santi, a researcher with the Research Institute at Health Sciences North in Sudbury. Doctor, thanks for joining us on the program today. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to talk about the cost of cancer and some research that you're doing where this is concerned. Doctor, first of all, tell us what prompted you to explore this issue.
I was in our cancer clinics at the Northeast, the Shirley and Jim Fielding Northeast Cancer Centre in Sudbury, Ontario, one morning. It's well over a year ago now, and I struck up a conversation with the family members of one of our patients, and they were from out of town, like many of our patients are, and they were telling me about some of the, I guess the best way to describe it would be hardships that they were experiencing. taking time off work to be a caregiver, and perhaps, not maybe, perhaps maybe not having personal time or having to use vacation days or things like that. And knowing how many of our patients do come here from out of town, I was really struck by the conversation. And I remember walking to the elevator and I couldn't shake it. And it really, really stuck with me. And I went to talk to one of the co-investigators, co-PIs rather, co-principal investigators on this study, Dr. Lacey Petrie, who's a medical oncologist here at our cancer center. And I started to tell her about the conversation. And I said, I want to know how our patients are impacted. And she said, I want to know too. And so I started to look into it. And there had been some pioneering research done in Canada already, but nothing in Northern Ontario.
Mm-hmm. So what are you hoping to learn from this, doctor?
Well, we're hoping we can capture data associated with lost income to both patients and support persons and caregivers that accompany patients, additional costs that maybe aren't covered by insurance for their prescriptions, home care, specialist medical devices. Many cancer patients need those, travel accommodation costs, and any sort of relevant expenses that are associated with the cost of having a cancer diagnosis and subsequent treatment.
And what would the hope be, doctor, that maybe would be more attention paid to this issue, that maybe there'll be fundraising done for this, or just so that it's in the public awareness?
Well, all of the above. Mm-hmm. Somebody very wise once told me, whenever you come to a conversation and you don't have data, your conversations are emotion. Mm-hmm. They're emotive. And so I think having some numbers, because no one's looked at this before, once you have some data, you can start to have real conversations about what the trends are and what's going on. And then ultimately, if there's an ability to be able to use this data to help existing social supports or existing programs, then absolutely, I'd love to be a part of those bigger conversations.
Is it important as well to look at the health impact of the stress of the financial situation, right? Because you have a patient dealing with cancer, and
sure.
And then they're also worried about, oh man, I've used up all my vacation days,
how to pay for it,
and I don't have, I have to pay. There's a lot of extra bills I wasn't expecting. That's a health stressor too, right?
Oh, for sure. And and I think it's difficult to separate the two, right? Like your treatment outcomes are, I think, are going to be directly influenced by your quality of life, and your quality of life is going to influence your treatment outcomes, right? And I think the two play into one another. I think it's difficult to separate the two. I think that's what you're getting at, and I would have to agree.
Mm-hmm. So, doctor, let's get into the dollars and cents, if we can. What are some of the costs that can pile up for a family? What are the things that they look at and have to go through?
Oh my goodness, there's many that we're asking about. There's out-of-pocket prescription costs. There's out-of-pocket maybe costs for devices, things like home care, or maybe additional expenses from regulated health professionals. And by that I mean counseling or physiotherapy or things like that. I mean there's many. I think what's important to know, though, is not so much, knowing. I think what's important to know is yes, the what, that's very important, but the pioneering research that was done in this field by Dr. Christopher Longo at McMaster University, he's working with us on this study as well too. His pioneering research in 2021 that was very extensive across Canadian cancer centers found that the average amount that the average cancer patient was out of pocket for per month was approximately $2,500.
Wow.
It was $2,514. And we don't have these numbers for Northern Ontario. And your reaction was my reaction. And it's a field of science. It's a field of study called financial toxicity, and it's a big concern for many fields of medicine, not just cancer. And as I started to look into this and dove deeper into it, those numbers surprised me too. And so we'll be looking at all of the variables that will feed into those final numbers to see what that looks like for our patients here in Northern Ontario.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can only assume, though, being in Northern Ontario, further removed from services, that cost likely would be higher.
Well, perhaps. I'm reluctant to jump on that without any data to support it, right? But that's what we're going to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if it's close, it's still staggering.
Yeah. And what year were those?
Isn't it?
Yeah, what year was that previous number, Doctor? The 25?
2021.
Oh, okay, so it was just a few years ago. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So how will the study work? Is it a mix of surveys, but also hearing people's personal narratives? How will you gather this data?
So we asked this question because in order to get an accurate answer, we need to have lots of people help us, right? And so what we decided to do was actually administer the questionnaire on iPads that circulate around our cancer center for patients. They come to register for their cancer appointments, and it will enable us to capture hopefully everyone that wants to fill out the questionnaire when they come to register for their appointment.
And is there a limit? Are you trying to get to a certain number of respondents, or are you going to do it for a few months, a year?
Right now, the initial plan is to keep recruitment open for about 6 months, approximately, and see what our intake is like.
And as a researcher, do you kind of get a sneak peek? Like, do you go at the end of the day and look at the results and just see kind of what people are telling you, just for a quick glimpse?
We won't tell anyone.
No one's listening.
Well, you as a researcher, you do see you do see the data points, but you have to it's. But you do an analysis on the entirety, right? So yes and no to answer your question.
It's fascinating, though, because it does speak to what we may not often think of, right? When you think of cancer, especially, you think of that immediate moment where the family, the person suffering, the person dealing with the disease, and all the people who love them are immersed in, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to treat this? What do we do? Correct. But then there is that moment, and we all know people who've had to deal with cancer, where you do kind of take a step back and say, holy cow, like, there's stuff going on at home, there's bills piling up, I think it's really, this is not a great question, but it's just smart that you're looking into that, because you want to understand the entirety of the experience.
Absolutely. And I think to further elaborate on your comment, the one thing that we don't know is the temporal aspect of what's happening in a cancer patient's journey. Now, what I mean by that is, for some different cancers can require different kinds of treatments. They can also incur expenses over time, temporally, differentially, right? So what we don't know is, for some patients, will they experience a bulk of these financial burdens, at the beginning of their diagnosis, or for some patients, will it be, just spread out over time, just cumulative, or for some people, will it be at the end, because maybe they had to make large changes to their lifestyle. I mean, maybe they need a certain medical equipment, or maybe perhaps had to renovate a home or things like that. I mean, we don't know, right? No one's looked at it, and so the temporal aspect will be interesting too. And so, by asking as many people as we can when they come to the cancer center to fill out our survey / questionnaire, we can, we'll be able to ask people who are in the differing points in their journey, whether they're a more recently diagnosed patient, or maybe someone who's in follow-up, or remission and coming in for a checkup or things like that.
Doctor, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but is there more that maybe the government could be doing to help offset these costs? I know there are programs like the Northern Travel Grant, but at the end of the day, it's really not a lot of money. It's 40 or 41 cents a kilometer and $100 in accommodations for 2 nights. At the end of it, it really doesn't amount to a lot when you're faced with, $2,000 or $2,500 a month in out-of-pocket expenses. Sure.
And we, that's a good question. That's a good question. And I think if we have the data from this project, we'll be able to start having some of those conversations, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm finding out every day that there's more and more, programs to help people that I didn't maybe necessarily know existed either. But we do ask about the travel grant, because we do know that there are patients that it is their reality to have to travel 2, 3, 4 hours, sometimes during a snowstorm, paying overnight accommodations or things like that, just to access care. And these things may or may not be, a common experience for more urban or more densely populated areas or larger cities, in other areas of Ontario or Canada. So we do ask.
It's a great point, right? Because when we hear about the debate, it's often a political debate, the Northern Travel Grant, right?
For sure.
We don't really see that couple lines in the story that says, well, here's what the research has shown us about how much it costs. Now we'll have that piece of the puzzle.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Doctor, is there anything else we didn't ask you about this, the study you're going to do, the research you're working on that you want our listeners to understand?
I am conducting this study with Dr. Lacey Petrie, who's a medical oncologist here at our cancer center, as well as Dr. Deborah Saunders, who's the medical director of our dental oncology clinic. Mm-hmm. So we're the team heading up this study, and I mentioned Dr. Longo as well, and being a part of our study team. And the Northern Cancer Foundation and NOEMA are funding this study, and we wouldn't be able to do it without this support. And to do something this large here at our cancer center, there's a couple of other interesting features about this study. It's one of the first all digital studies to run at our cancer center, and that was no easy feat to launch. And also, as part of our study team, we actually have a patient partner who has lived experience. And in the early stages of the study, her input was absolutely valuable and critical. My question to our patient partner was, help us get it right. What are we missing, from your personal experience? And I think that's really important. It seems so intuitive that, you would have a patient partner consult on a research study, but it's really, their lived experience is so valuable to make sure that the things that we are looking at are the right ones.
Well, it's a very large undertaking and very important work. So good luck with it, doctors.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And there was one other part too. There is a very large team supporting us at the Cancer Center from our as also part of our study team, our informatics, Kevin Lamb, and our director, Stephanie Wynn, and every manager, every person who's said, yes, we will help. It really takes that coordinated support, and it's really shown me too what true teamwork is really like. So it's been a valuable experience scientifically and professionally for myself personally.
Well, as we say around here, it takes a village.
It does. It
Dr.
really does.
Stacey Santi, a researcher at the Research Institute at Health Sciences North in Sudbury. Thank you for this, Doctor. Meaningful discussion. Good to see you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate this.
Last year, financial stress had me at my wit's end. I felt trapped and embarrassed that it had gotten so bad. I really felt I had nowhere to turn. That's when I called Ontario-wide Financial. Their home equity lending was a game changer for me. Despite my bad credit and being in a consumer proposal, they helped me get the cash I needed. Thanks to Ontario-wide Financial, I've started this year with hope, not stress. They gave me a fresh start, and they can do the same for you. Ontario-wide Financial, because everyone deserves a second chance.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Back to wrap on Inside the Village across the Village Media Network. That was a great discussion. Sounds like she's got her work cut out for her with that research project, but a great team surrounded by a good group there.
It is an interesting study. What caught my eye when we decided to chat about this is just everybody knows cancer hits everybody, whether it's you, someone you love, and there is that moment where you kind of have that panic attack of, this is like, we're off work. If it's a couple, or they're both off work, there's travel costs. And like you said, the Northern Travel Grant, for example, if you live in Northern Ontario, it gives you a little bit of money, but it's not going to, they don't cover, you don't file your expenses.
No, and if you ever try to book a hotel room in Toronto for $50 a night.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah,
ain't going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So
it is not.
You'll have to get to know the reporters at TorontoToday and stay at their place.
There you go. 2-0 Tigers, by the way.
Yes, top of the ninth.
Yeah, this will be outdated by the time you watch it, but he's excited.
Let's hope they hold on.
ITV at villagemedia.ca if you'd like to reach out on this topic, the cost of cancer, or any other show that we've done. We'd love to hear from you. All right, that's it for us. For Derek Turner, executive producer of the program, Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks, as always, for watching. We'll see you next time on Inside the Village.
You've been listening to Inside the Village.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe, provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.